Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
And a new chapter of the podcast begins. Welcome everyone to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, now at its brand new time on Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern. I hope you are all having a wonderful day, and I hope you all had a great Father's Day weekend. I know I definitely had a great time with my family, and this is going to be pretty exciting, but also, this is going to be something for me to get used to. Like I said last time, for about 3 years, I've always done the podcast every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern, but now I have decided to go and move it to Mondays at 4 p.m. Eastern. Long story short, it's more for my own well-being and to give myself more time to free up my schedule on the weekends. But you might have noticed already that there is a little bit something different with this podcast, at least if you are watching this. Because if you do look what is on top of us right over here, you'll notice that there are several names that are glowing in green. And I see, it has already activated right now. Because the thing is that what I have up here is actually a scoreboard. And on this scoreboard, this is something that for you guys, you can actually interact with in order to have your name appear on top. So for example, you may have noticed over here, the one with the fedora, that is actually where you will see your name if you put up a subscription. So for every new subscriber, that's where the names will be highlighted right over here. Then you will notice in the middle, the one with the $sign, that is actually for every new donation. For every time someone puts up a new bit, then that is when they will go and have their name be highlighted along with the amount that they would go and put up. And by the way, speaking of subscriptions before, just want to say a special thank you to Daniel is the Vasquez, as well as Yami199 for that little additional subscription. So yeah, already as you could see, the name that is beside the fedora is already changing. And then there is the one that is right over there. The one with the crown. That is actually the one where if you have made the biggest subscription, not the biggest subscription, but the biggest donation on my Twitch channel, then your name will be highlighted here. And so far, Jax Blade has already put up a massive record with 1,000. So if you think you could try to surpass him with that, then I wish you the best of luck. So it's just something to add, like, to give a little bit of interactivity with this podcast, or whenever I would be live streaming, you know, something that you guys can have, like, a little moment of glory to have your name be highlighted during the show, or during the live stream. But anyways, with all that said and done, I would like to now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you all ready right now? All right, I see it. Perfect. We are seeing all these familiar names that are coming back. I'm glad that you guys have returned, even if we did go into a different time, and I see you are all ready for this. And with that said and done, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that we have for you today, we're going to be diving into a little bit of controversy. You know, it's been a little bit of a while that I discussed about something that might get myself into a little bit of trouble, or discuss about a certain subject where a lot of people have been very heated up about, or like it sparked a lot of fires on social media. It's been a little while. I've played it safe, but you guys know me. I say what's in my mind regardless of what the subject is, so why don't we go down into it? And what is the subject that I am talking about, you may think? Well, I shall be discussing none other than the controversy related to Scott Cawthon. Yes, you may recall last week, one of the biggest video gaming news, other than E3 of course, is the fact that Scott Cawthon, the creator of the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise, has officially announced that he is going to retire. He is no longer going to be creating games for a living, and is just going to be putting his focus more on family, and also, if he would be making games again, it would just be for the fun of it, instead of actually for profit. He would actually go and state, which I'm going to be reading here from my source on The Wrap, in which he said here, "I've had a blessed, fulfilling, and rich career. I've been shown great kindness, and I've tried to show great kindness in return. I've tried to make some good games, let the debates ensue, and I've witnessed the creation of possibly the most creative and talented fan base on the planet." He would continue on by saying that he missed a lot of things that he got to focus on before FNAF became such a success, like making games for his kids or just for fun. "All this is to say that I am retiring. I have been shown tremendous love and support over the last week, a lot of which has come from the LGBTQ community." But, in the words of another popular indie game, Among Us, this right here, this move, as heartfelt as this may seem, it feels a little too sus, not gonna lie. And the reason why I say this is because just a few days, like not even a week or anything like that, just like in a matter of days, just before he announced his retirement, Scott Cawthon, he got into some massive controversy. He was facing a significant amount of backlash. Why, you may ask? What was it that got himself into trouble? Well, apparently, his financial records got leaked online, and it presented that apparently a lot of his donations were towards some top Republican politicians. And I don't mean just like any typical Republican politicians. I mean the full-on, far-right, unapologetically Confederate, Trump-supporting Republican politicians. And he didn't just pledge like, $50 here and $20 there. It's not like the small stuff. He literally spent thousands of dollars to give money to those specific people. Like, he really gave, in a grand total, at least with what was leaked here on OpenSecrets.org, he spent, like, somewhere in the 5-digit mark, like 20 or even, like, $30,000 that he spent on giving money to Republican candidates. And I'm just going to read you a few of them on some of the most notorious names. So, just for some examples, we got Kevin McCarthy, to which he gave $933. Elise Stefanik, $2,800. Of course, no surprise, Donald Trump, $2,000. What else could we find as an example? I'm saving you for last. Here's one. Devin Nunes, $933. Ben Carson, $2,500. The National Republican Senator Committee, $2,500. And the biggest pledge that he has made was towards Mitch McConnell, the Senate Minority Leader, Mitch McConnell, to which he gave $5,000. And all this, apparently the grand majority of them, were all from 2020. Now, there were a few that came, like there were some that were from 2019, and some that date all the way back to 2015, like the one he did to Ben Carson. But to the grand majority of them, apparently they were not just in that 1 year, but they were on that one day where apparently on August 19th, 2020, he spent thousands of dollars giving donations to these prominent Republican politicians. And the reason why this got a significant amount of backlash is especially from the LGBTQIA plus committee, the LGBTQIA plus community. I'm sorry about that. And the reason why they were upset with Scott Cawthon doing that is mainly because of the fact that, as you probably know, a lot of these politicians are very anti-LGBTQ. Like, these are the kind of people that want to strip away their rights, like make gay marriage illegal and just throw these people onto conversion therapies and stuff like that. And from there, of course, it really did make people upset, especially with the fact that the Five Nights at Freddy's community has a prominent section where it's all LGBTQIA+. And Scott Cawthon has made a response, but it wasn't really a great one. He actually did do this response here. It was from his Reddit, in which he titled it, "My Response and Maybe Last Post." To which he never really apologized about anything. He didn't apologize for the donations that he has done, and pretty much flat out explained to people that, yes, he is a Trump supporter, that he even said, like, in the bottom, I'll just read you, like, this part here, "I'm a Republican, I'm a Christian, I'm pro-life," which is pretty much code for anti-abortion. Like, really, the whole pro-life label, like, it's just full of bull crap, and just, I'm just gonna call it like it is, anti-abortion. Anyways, going back into this, yes, I'm a Republican, I'm a Christian, I'm anti-abortion, I believe in God, I also believe in equality, in science, and in common sense. Okay, well, hold on a sec. Some of them, you gotta kind of pick and choose, man. Like, you're anti-abortion and you're pro-life, yet, like, which one is it? You can't be both. Anyways, despite what some may say, all of those things can go together. That's not an apology or promise to change. It's the way it's always been. Now that, I gotta say immediately, that is highly debatable, honestly. And from there, like I said, it's not really an apology, it's just him trying to explain that even though he is someone that does support the LGBTQIA plus community, or like he would support black rights and stuff like that, he also states that he is unapologetically a Trump supporter, that he is unapologetically an evangelical level of a Christian and stuff like that. And some say that, like, from this backlash that he has received, he even mentioned that he was doxxed, but then again, there has been no confirmation that Scott Cawthon was actually doxxed from this controversy. Even though he may claim it, there is no actual evidence that there may be. It's probably just a tactic that he probably did lie in order to make the people who gave him backlash look bad. And so you could probably imagine that because of this, of course, from the discovery of his donations, like, he was heavily accused of being homophobic, especially considering the fact that we are in the month of June, and June is Pride Month, so of course, the LGBTQ thing, like that right there, that's already kind of like a major subject to why he would be called a homophobe. But even though he does deny it, and he's unapologetic of the fact that he is a Trump-supporting evangelical Republican, it didn't really help his situation. And so, because the backlash only increased from there, that's when he pretty much decided to go and officially retire. And I think on top of that, I don't know if this is 100% true. You could correct me on this aspect, but I did hear that on top of that, he also sold the rights to Five Nights at Freddy's to a different company so that he doesn't have to go and handle it anymore. So that is essentially the big commotion of all this. Scott Cawthon got called out for his pledge to very bigoted and very fascist Republican politicians. He did not apologize for it. The backlash only grew from him, and from there, he decided to just bail out, to go and retire. Now, from there, I'm sure a lot of people might be wondering, is Scott Cawthon a bigot? Would you actually say that because of all this, Scott Cawthon is a homophobe, that he hates gays? Honestly, I would say no, he is not. I honestly do actually believe him that he is comfortable with the LGBT community, and especially with the fact that they did play a significant factor in the Five Nights at Freddy's fan base. Like, he does have an appreciation for them. He doesn't have that bigoted viewpoint that he sees them lesser, even though he is a Republican Christian and stuff like that. Like, there is a side of Scott Cawthon that I do believe that he is not bigoted, and, you know, he does respect the LGBT community as is. Like, he'll just let them be. But, with that said, though, you gotta keep in mind that actions do speak louder than words. And even though he says that he's okay with the LGBTQ community, he doesn't mind either that their rights would be stripped away, and it shows that he wouldn't necessarily do much if they do end up in a position where their rights would be completely gone and would be completely taken away from them. He's pretty much in the mindset that he may be okay with that community, but if his Republican leaders say that they gotta go, well then, for him, he'll agree with them to say that they gotta go. It's obvious that for Scott, he won't be losing any sleep if suddenly there would be some new laws that would say that gay marriage is illegal across the US, or if they would say, or like even in an extreme case, like if all the gay people would suddenly be thrown into conversion therapies and stuff like that. He won't be losing any sleep. It's not like he'll actually do anything about it. He'll look at the news and say, "Oh, that's too bad," and just move on with his day. He won't do anything about it. So that really is kind of the hypocrisy with the response, and probably the biggest problem with the response that he did deliver is the fact that he tried to explain that he is for equality, that he does respect the LGBTQ community, and is also for equality and for diversity, but he is also a Trump supporter, which is something that he has not apologized for. And let's be honest, ever since January 6th, being a Trump supporter really is something that you should apologize for, and is something that nowadays is definitely not okay to be. Like, imagine still being a Trump supporter in 2021. That's honestly, like, I don't know if that's, like, terrible or if that's sad, or maybe it could be both. But the thing is that there really is this massive hypocrisy when you say that you do support this group, but at the same time, you're also a Trump supporter. That's pretty much the equivalent of saying that, oh, you are completely against vandalism, rioting, and looting. Like, those are terrible crimes, but you're also perfectly okay with murder. In fact, you've probably done some murders yourself. Like, I stand against looting and rioting and vandalism, but, and also, I just want to say that as someone who has already killed 3 people myself. That's basically what you are kind of saying, and there is this massive hypocrisy where, yeah, you do, like, at the most, Scott respects them, but he's not really going to do any action in order to go and help them, in order to go and protect them. Like, honestly, like, really, it's as effective as delivering thoughts and prayers after a mass shooting. It's not really going to do much, and it's not really going to do anything in order to take action to prevent from any of those actions to go and happen again. So really, in the case of Scott Cawthon, I don't believe he is a bigot. I don't believe he is homophobic. But does he deserve to be heavily criticized for what he has done with those donations? Absolutely. Those actions are extremely homophobic. And not to mention that when he would go and try to explain that he is retiring and that he wants to spend more time with his family, yeah, honestly, with that retirement aspect, like, because of the fact that it only happened just a few days after the backlash that he has received, I feel like this is a moment where I can't help but feel like it's extremely similar to what happened to Kevin Spacey. You guys probably remember his hashtag #MeToo move, his hashtag #MeToo moment. Like, do you remember the time when Kevin Spacey was actually called out for trying to have sex with a 17-year-old boy without his consent? From there, Kevin Spacey tried to control the situation by saying, "Hey, guess what, everybody? I'm gay. I'm coming out of the closet." And it completely backfired on him so bad. I feel like that is the exact same thing. like the whole retirement situation, like that's just a means to distract people from his backlash that he's in a position where he should be apologizing and show more action to show more support for the LGBT community. The right thing that he should have done is to say, I'm sorry if I've offended anyone with my past pledges. I won't be doing them again, and instead my money shall be going more to pro-LGBT communities and services, as well as non-profit organizations and stuff like that. That would have been the correct thing to go and do. But instead of doing that, Scott Cawthon decided to go into the coward's way out and try to distract people with this whole retirement kind of thing. And I will give him this, though, that I do understand that maybe this is a decision that he thought about for a while, that he considered trying to do. But the thing is that with this backlash that he has received, it really felt like bad timing, and it just felt like it's only a means as a way to get away from criticism. It's a means to try to go and avoid backlash, and instead of doing the right thing, he decided to just like get away from his problems. It's to hide from his problems instead of confronting it. That's literally what he is trying to do. Because in this day and time, Scott Cawthon realizes the reality that he's pretty much in a position where he cannot have both things at the same time. He cannot be a Trump-supporting Republican Christian and have the platform that he does have at the same time. He can only choose one or the other. And the reason why is because you have to look at another game creator who went through a similar situation. Take a look at Notch. Do you guys remember Notch? Like, you know, the guy who actually created Minecraft? Like, he created an absolute phenomenon. I mean, to this day, Minecraft is possibly the biggest indie game of all time. But at the same time, Notch is also known to be a little bit of a psychopath. And when I mean psychopath, I mean that this dude has some extremely messed up beliefs. And I don't mean like nationalist beliefs or Republican beliefs. Like, this guy has full-on extremist white nationalist beliefs. And you probably do recall some of the insane things that he would say on social media that would just flat out promote far-right extremism and white supremacy. He became so toxic that even the entire gaming community tried to distance from him. And even Microsoft noticed that after they purchased Minecraft from Notch, that they took away any and all shape and forms of references that are related to Notch to completely disassociate Minecraft from Notch. And that's why nowadays, Notch has been completely disgraced as a content creator. Nobody wants to talk about Notch anymore, despite the fact that he created one of the biggest games of all times. And you go back to Scott Cawthon, he realized that with his Trump-supporting white nationalist-style beliefs, he knows that he's pretty much in the same position as Notch, and that he cannot have it both ways, where he can be a Trump-supporting evangelical white nationalist as well as a game creator that created one of the he cannot be an iconic game creator. He with a massive platform, by the way. He has to choose one or the other. And if he wants to have one, well, then he has to sacrifice the other. And if he wants to remain as an indie game creator, then he would have to put his beliefs on the side. And by the way, I just want to go and quickly mention about another thing why his explanation about spending more time with his family is honestly pretty bullcrap. Is because as an independent game creator or as an independent game designer, you are allowed to flex out your time to move things around in order to make room for your family. You could still have it both ways. Like, maybe you'll end up spending less time actually creating those games, but you'll also be spending time with your family to raise your kids and all that kind of stuff. There are possible ways that you can do both. So you cannot tell me that you must sacrifice your gaming side in order to be with your family. Like, come on, man. We all know that is bullcrap. And I'm speaking as someone who had to make make that decision where I had to move my podcast from Saturdays to Mondays in order to give myself more time for the weekends to be with my family and friends and stuff like that if ever they would go and need me. So that's one element that I have to say is bullcrap, and it really is about maintaining his white nationalist beliefs. That really is the fine line about this whole situation. He knows that if he wants to stay as an iconic game creator and to have this massive platform, then he would have to set his white nationalist politics aside. That he can't go and do these things like make massive pledges to people like Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump and Kevin McCarthy and stuff like that. It's something that he's just incapable of doing with the platform that he has. But unfortunately, he decided to go the other way around. In order to maintain those white nationalist beliefs, he has to sacrifice his platform. And honestly, I have no other words to describe it other than being weak, other than being cowardly, and honestly, something that is massively selfish, that he sacrificed the needs of his fans, of his platform, and especially of his family as well, in order to maintain being a Trump-supporting nationalist. And then that is something that I gotta say, yes, it is something that is actually a decision where he is putting himself above his family as well. Mainly because of the fact that his main source of income, where like the source of his wealth that's putting his family in a very good spot where they could be raised happily and healthily, like he decided to go and sacrifice all that for his own selfish beliefs as well. I'm just saying, that $5,000 that you gave to Mitch McConnell, would that not be given better to your family? Really? I mean, like, I know some people may argue that he already gave probably so much more to his family, but there's no such thing as giving enough money to your family, you know? I'm just saying, that money would have been better off to your family than towards someone like Mitch McConnell. I just need to lay it out there. And overall, yes, this is a decision that honestly is very selfish, is very weak, and is very pitiful as well. Because Scott Cawthon decided that he just wants to put himself and put his white nationalist beliefs above everything, above the craft that he has created, above his legacy, above his reputation, and yes, above his own family, because of the pride that he has of being a Trump-supporting Republican. And it's honestly a decision that I also want to add that is very unchristian of him, considering that he's obviously just fully consumed with pride. He's too afraid to go and actually apologize and be in a position to be humble and understand why what he has done is considered very hurtful to the group of people that pretty much made him the phenomenon that he is today. Instead, his own selfish pride of being a Trump-supporting Republican is much more important than anything else. And it's a sin that would definitely take him down, not just his reputation, but even in terms of his wealth and his lifestyle and everything. That really, God will be putting him to the test of how much his conservatism really is worth at this point. Because slowly but surely, the more he wants to maintain his beliefs, the more God will just be taking away what he has, one by one. And it will be a slow process. This will be something that will take a few years. But eventually, it's probably a decision that God will make him regret in the future. So overall, though, again, I don't believe Scott Cawthon is a bigot, but with his actions, he did do some very bigoted things that he should have apologized for, and he decided to take the coward's way out by completely bailing out on his platform, by completely taking him down in order to maintain his own selfish beliefs. You want to get rid of everything, then fine. Then honestly, you want to be a Trump supporter, then fine. Be a Trump supporter, because like any other Trump supporter, you're nothing more but deplorable. Someone that honestly, life is most likely better without. That the Five Nights at Freddy's community is better without. That the LGBTQIA+ community is certainly better without. And that even your family is better without. You want to live like a Trump supporter? Fine. Be a fucking Trump supporter. See if I fucking care. And with all that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Scott Cawthon's decision of retiring after he decided to leave, after he got called out for his wrongful actions? Are you more on the side of Scott in this? Do you understand why he got the backlash? Let me know what you all think on this. Okay, let's see what we got here. I wonder how MatPat will respond to this. I know that people will want to separate art from the artist, but I think people need to also understand that you need to be aware that if the creator is either alive or still getting royalties. For example, Lovecraft is super racist, but since that he's not alive, you don't have to worry about spending money on a Cthulhu or Yog Sothan plushie. J.K. Rowling, however, is still being a turf and gaining royalties from Harry Potter products. Yeah, definitely. I mean, just like I said, it's definitely the same kind of situation as Notch, for example. Like, it's a case where you really do have to separate the art from the artist. You could still enjoy stuff like Five Nights at Freddy's and Minecraft. You just have to not associate it with those people in particular. And yeah, like some might find it to be a little bit more difficult than others, but honestly, it's going to be a challenge that, yeah, like if you still want to enjoy the games and the franchises and stuff like that, then you got to learn to separate the art from the artist. And I don't know if we are actually going to see any of the big YouTubers actually respond to this. Like, you know, the YouTubers that pretty much made their claim to fame because of Five Nights at Freddy's, like MatPat or Markiplier and stuff like that. I don't know if they are going to respond, mainly because of the fact that this is a subject that does revolve around politics, and when it comes to politics, for them that would be an absolute no-no. Many of these YouTubers, especially the big ones, don't even have the courage like I do about talking about politics, or even putting up the risk of talking about subjects that some people would be considered divisible. So anyways, let's see what we got here. I've never played any of the Five Nights at Freddy's games. I love the irony of Scott Cawthon saying that he showed great kindness after donating to a party that has shown anything but great kindness. After all this, if I ever need a FNAF fix in the future, I think I'll just stick to a good Markiplier video. Overall, excuse my sailor mouth, but the point still stands. Fuck MAGA. All my homies hate MAGA. Exactly, man. And also, I just want to say one thing that is I just find it seems to be very ironic. There's something very strange going on, and that is regarding to those people that would come in and they would comment, "Stop talking about politics." Like, you know, the ones, the kind of self, you know, like the kind of people that feel like that see themselves very highly and they think they're better than everyone else, and they command those that would ever discuss about politics by saying, like, "Stop talking about politics. You shouldn't talk about politics. This person is bad because they speak about politics," and stuff like that. Like, you know, those kinds of people, oddly enough, they seem rather quiet about what Scott Cawthon has done. Like, maybe there might have been a few people that did call out Scott Cawthon because he related himself to politics, but to those anti-political people, it seems rather strange that they decided to be silent about something of what Scott Cawthon did that normally would completely infuriate them. I just want to point out something that seems a little bit strange about those people and their silence about Scott Cawthon. Anyways, I do think Scott needs to reconsider what he has done as a Trump supporter. While I wouldn't go as far as say that he's a bigot, but with the fact that he's retiring just a few days after this controversy is incredibly fishy. In a way, it does kind of remind me of the Gina Carano controversy in terms of being a Republican, although to be fair, this controversy didn't at least flat out destroy his reputation like Gina Carano, but Scott seriously needs to get mental help. Well, I wouldn't say that this I will say that he kind of did salvage his reputation in a way, and that this distraction did kind of work, considering there was a temporary moment where hashtag thank you Scott was actually trending on social media, where it did succeed, where the more simple-minded people on social media and the more simple-minded gamers did get distracted on the situation and only saw the retirement aspect. So there was that element right there. Let's see what else we got here. Just as FNAF began to make a big return with Security Breach, Scott basically crashed and burned. He could have just apologized and changed himself, but no. He chose to dig his heels and try to avoid the consequences. Let us all hope that someone better will take over the FNAF franchise from him. Exactly, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, Christians need to remind themselves that pride is a deadly sin, and that pride can certainly take you down, just like with what happened with Scott Cawthon here. Let's see. I'll read 2 more comments and then we jump to the next story now. The ideology of hate the sin, love the sinners, that the so-called Christians have is bullshit. Thanks to this, I am no longer in a rush to play FNAF. Meanwhile, I shall continue to love who the hell I want. You go, dude. You definitely go. Alright, let's read one more comment before we read the next story. As a FNAF fan, this news really did break my heart because I cannot think that Scott would support someone as evil as Donald Trump. Not to mention the fact that the FNAF series was one of the video games that was part of my late childhood alongside Minecraft and Mario Kart 8. To quote Gordon, James, and Henry from Thomas once again, disgraceful, disgusting, despicable. Exactly, man. I mean, he's pretty much out of the picture. Oh, actually, I just want to read one more. This seems interesting. He's full of crap. I'll just dissociate that turd from the franchise. If you guys want to help out the LGBT community, go to their Pride Parade, hang out with them a lot more, and even donate for their cause. Even Burger King helped out with the LGBT. Exactly, man. So, overall, if there is one thing that you should take away from this, show actual love, more so than Scott pretends to show to his family, and actually show some respect to the Pride people, to the LGBTQIA plus community. You know, donate to their causes. You know, show some love. You know, do what you can. If we want to show some love, don't show it to Scott. Show it to the people that actually deserve it. Okay, so now with that one done, it is now time I shall jump onto the next story. And the next story that we actually do have here is actually what I would consider to be the biggest highlight for me at last week's Annecy International Animation Film Festival. Yes, one of the biggest festivals honoring animation. It was actually a really big one as well, considering that they had their 60th annual festival going on. And there were a lot of teasers, there were a lot of previews, and a lot of discussions that did happen during that festival, where some major studios such as Netflix and Disney and Nickelodeon, that they all came in showing little previews of what they have in store for the following year and for like in a few years like beyond. And on top of that, there were some things that I would say there were a few highlights that I wanted to bring up, but there were some more interesting stories that did occur that I'll be talking about here. Like, for example, one thing that I'm immediately excited about is that they did reveal a little teaser at the festival for Sylvain Chomet's next movie. And if you guys don't know Sylvain Chomet, that's the guy who actually did movies such as the 2010 Illusionist film, as well as the Triplets of Belleville. And the fact that he's coming back with another animated movie, I'm definitely excited for. But the one that I am presenting here, honestly, I feel like is the most interesting. And what we actually have is something that Disney picked up, which is going to be an African animated anthology film. Yes, at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival, Disney has picked up an anthology film called Kizazi Moto, which is basically an animated anthology film with a sci-fi theme to it that will be made in Africa, and it will be from the perspective of African people as well. And already they have stated that this will be coming on Disney Plus at the end of 2022. And by the way, not only has Disney picked it up, but this is already something that has some prominent studios and some prominent people already working on it. The African studio Triggerfish is in charge of making this and supplying the animation, as well as having Peter Ramsey be the executive producer. And you probably know Peter Ramsey as the acclaimed director of movies such as Rise of the Guardians and the co-director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And I'm going to be reading a few quotes that I have over here, in which I'll be reading from my source here on Variety. And the first one will be from the president of Disney Plus and ESPN Plus, Michael Paul, in which he states, "We are bringing the work of a visionary new generation of African filmmakers to Disney Plus. In addition to delivering thrilling animation for fans of all ages, this collection of 10 original films taps into Afrofuturism phenomenon, which was turbocharged by Marvel's Black Panther and reflects Disney's ongoing commitment to partnering with leading global talent to tell the stories of the world from fresh and authentic points of view. We also got another comment here coming from Peter Ramsey, in which he states, "I'm really pleased to be a part of a groundbreaking, fresh, and exciting project that is aimed at exposing the world to a whole new wave of creativity and invention from a place that is just ready to explore onto the world and animation scene." Or onto the world animation scene, I may say. Sorry about that. The films in the anthology kind of run the gamut where it comes to science fiction. There are stories that touch on other worlds, time travel, and alien beings, but all of these genre conventions are seen through an African lens that make them totally new. I can't wait for people to have their minds blown and say, "I want more." And I think, do we have another comment here? Yes. We do have one more comment that I want to read. It's actually pretty interesting. This is actually from the supervising producer, Tendai Nieke, in which they state, Kizazi Moto derives from the Swahili phrase Kizazi Moto, which literally translates as fire generation, capturing the passion, innovation, and excitement this new cohort of African filmmakers is ready to bring to the world. Moto also means fire in several other African languages, from Rwanda's Kinyarwanda to Shona, a Zimbabwean language, speaking to the Pan-African spirit we hope this anthology embodies. And also, I just want to go and add, for those of you who are not familiar with what this is all about, maybe I should have started with this, but it states here that what this whole thing is going to be about, it says, inspired by the continent's diverse histories and cultures, the 10-part anthology brings together a slate of rising animation talents from 6 African nations to produce action-packed sci-fi and fantasy stories that will present bold visions to advance technology, aliens, spirits, and monsters imagined from uniquely African perspectives. And we also got a list here of the 10 filmmakers that are going to be working on those 10-minute long animated shorts for the movie, in which it says the final 10 films are from Ahmed Talab from Egypt, Simangaliso Panda Simbaya and Malcolm Wope from South Africa, Terence Maluleke and Isaac Mogajan from South Africa, Ngendo Muki from Kenya, Sofela Coker from Nigeria, Nithato Mokgata and Terence Neal from South Africa, Pius Nyenyewa and Tafadzwa Hove from Zimbabwe, Tshepo Moche from South Africa, Raymond Malinga from Uganda, and Lesego Vorster from South Africa. So I think the best way to perfectly describe what they have in store with Kizazi Moto is that this is essentially Disney Plus's answer to Love, Death, and Robots. That Love, Death, and Robots actually did very well on Netflix that, well, of course, inevitably, Disney would want to have their own. Except, well, they don't want to have any of the R-rated stuff from, from Love, Death, and Robots. It won't be as exploitive, like there won't be gore gushing out, or there won't be any naked ladies just running around having sex, or going into like those seriously adult themes or anything like that. It will be a little bit more family friendly because of the fact that it is on Disney Plus after all, but it will still be a little bit like Love, Death, and Robots, where it is an animated anthology film that does have both a sci-fi and an African theme to it. And honestly, I feel very interested in seeing what this is all about. Because lately, Disney seems to be very interested in collaborating with African filmmakers, or more specifically, with African animators. Mainly because you probably have remembered a few months ago where Disney actually made the announcement that their well-known animation studio is going to be collaborating with an African company in order to make this futuristic animated series called Iwaju that's coming out next year. So they already have plans to go and like really collaborate and work on working with African filmmakers, and we did see that a little bit before. Like you guys probably remember, there was at one point with the 2019 Lion King remake that I think it was with Beyonce, where they did this special video that is themed to that Lion King in particular that does have a strong African theme. And yet here we are today, where Disney is still continuing with this with this African collaboration, but this time something that is animated, and it feels very interesting. And one thing I will say that is very interesting about all this is the fact that it is going to be coming from new voices. But not just that, it's coming from voices that you don't normally hear every day, especially in the animation world. Like, seriously, let's just think for a moment. When was the last time have you ever heard about an African animated feature? I mean, like, we know a good amount of animated films that are set in Africa, like The Lion King, for example, but do we actually know any African filmmakers that are prominent in animation, or like an animated film that was made in Africa that became so prominent right now? And like, yeah, well, African American, yeah, like some people are probably pointing out like African American animators or black animators and stuff like that. That does not necessarily count though. Yeah, they're black, but they're not like full on African born in Africa. There are probably some, but like they're like a dime a dozen. Those are like still extremely rare. So what makes it interesting is that it's going to be coming from these brand new voices that honestly we've never heard before. And already, just from the concept art that we already see in this article on Variety, like, it really looks like it's going to be very interesting that it stays true to the Africa theme, but also stays true to the futuristic theme. And each definitely look distinctly different from the other, where, like, yeah, there will be some that will be more stylistic, some are going to be CGI, some are going to be hand-drawn. That there is that distinct look into it. It's honestly, it looks very intriguing and definitely has caught my eye into it. I don't know if it's going to really get a lot of people's attention. Like, it is Disney after all, and they will definitely find a way in order to really market the crap out of this to present like this epic African movie that they got. Like, even if it would mean like they'll have to present this as like some kind of like African Fantasia or something like that. But it still looks amazing. Like, I honestly look at this and I can definitely see the potential, and I could see that, like, especially for animation fans, this is worth really checking out. This is definitely going to be something that will definitely capture a lot of people's attention. And honestly, this feels like a really good grab for Disney. Like, yeah, as I said, this definitely does seem like this is going to be another Love, Death, and Robots, but like, already I could tell it will have its own identity. Like, it will have that similar theme and that similar tone of the fact that it is a this sci-fi based animated anthology film. But then again, like, why not have more animated anthology films? Those are often really fun to check out, especially with what I mentioned, like more movies like Fantasia or something like that. That would definitely be something that I would be totally down to see. And if it would require for Disney to go to Africa and pick up something like Kizazi Moto, I would definitely, you know what? So be it. I would definitely be down for it. So overall, though, this is why, honestly, I feel like this is the most interesting thing that did come out of the Annecy Animation Film Festival, not counting like the independent films that have been presented there. Honestly, I just look at this and I just see nothing but really full potential to give us something new, to give us something very interesting, and especially coming from the help of not just Disney to go and distribute it, but also having Peter Ramsey on board as an executive producer. Like, this definitely feels like it could be something that will turn out great. So honestly, I'm pretty hyped up for this one. And if you guys are curious to check out Kizazi Moto as well, just mark your calendars at the end of 2022 when Disney will be ready to bring you to a very futuristic Africa. Okay, so with that said, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Kizazi Moto? Are you guys interested in checking it out? Do you want to know a little bit more info about it? And also, is there any other news that came out of the Annecy Animation Festival that was a highlight for you? Let me know what you think. All right, so let's see what we got here. What comments do we have? Let's see. Honestly, this is an interesting concept, kind of like an African take on the Animatrix movie from 2004, but with many directors and animators from a variety of English-speaking African countries. If we can get in the following months a snippet of the voice cast and the precise release date, I will be on board with this movie. Also, sorry for missing the first story, shame on Scott. No problem, dude, don't worry about it. Honestly, like, I don't know if this would be the kind of thing that would actually have a voice cast, because it can happen when you're doing an anthology film and you just want to highlight like the work of the animators instead of giving a voice to it. Like, I mean, it could possibly have voices, but then again, I wouldn't mind if it doesn't either. I mean, like, sometimes great things can come when you don't even have any voice actors or any dialogue and you let the animators speak for themselves. Let's see what else we have here. Like you said, this does feel similar to the Netflix show that is loosely based on heavy metal comics being Love, Death, and Robots. Sure, I am in for the idea, but as an anthology with African animation with imaginative tales. I say this could open more opportunities with different parts of the world in terms of anthologies like Britain, Russia, France, Canada, or even Japan. What do you think of that possibility? Well, I mean, like, okay, in terms of anthologies, yeah, like, I would love to see more anthology films. That would definitely be awesome, but like, those countries, I will say, they already have a prominent voice, and part of what is interesting about Africa is that it's not as prominent of a voice, and it's like to give a voice to those who normally are the kind of voices that people don't usually hear. Like, yeah, there are definitely a lot of a lot of voices from, like, especially Japan or France or Canada or Britain or Russia, like, they are often heard, but Africa, not that much, especially with animation. So that's part of the beauty when it comes to Kizazi Moto, is because it's coming from a country that is not necessarily known for its animation, or at least in terms of like the mainstream culture. Let's see what we got here. This looks pretty amazing. The images look like they're from the Oscar-nominated short Genius Loki, opera, and yes, Netflix's animated series Love, Sex, and Robots. Is that on purpose where you add love sex? It's just sex instead of death. Anyways, and not only that it is being directed by, well, okay, it's not directed, it's just executive produced. Just keep that in mind. There is a significant difference. Not only is it produced by none other than the director of The Rise of the Guardians, but also the co-director of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I'm actually interested in seeing this anthology short that surrounds African people. And speaking of Disney, have you watched Pixar's new movie Luca on Disney Plus yet? Yes, expect a review coming soon. Let's see now. Now, look at the story. Now look back to me. Now look back at the story. Now back to me. You could be one interesting short film for Disney Plus, but instead you could be 10. What's inside? A dope producing crew. Look again. The shorts are now diamonds. Anything is possible now when your anthology smells like Kizazi Moto and not movie 43. So this doesn't connect to anything, but I love that commercial and I just had to reference it. I'm on a channel wall. Okay. Let's see now. I think I already read you. Any other comments? Just want to double check. Does anybody else have anything to say? It sounds very interesting. It'll be awesome and interesting to see. It'll be something similar to Fantasia, but with its own identity. Let's all get ready for it when it comes next year. Definitely. All right, I think in that case, I'll just read one more comment before we jump into the next one. Let's see now. This sounds like a great idea. Definitely keep us posted on this movie. This movie sounds like this sounds like a Kenya take on the Time Machine book by H.G. Wells, but using 70/30 method that Disney used with Treasure Planet. Be a really great idea and open the door to a whole new kind of culture. It actually gives a pop culture to Africa, which will be really cool. Definitely keeping my eye out on this one. Okay, so yeah, overall, if you guys are intrigued about what Disney has in store with Kizazi Moto, as well as what they also have in store with Iwaju, considering that is also another animated project Disney has that is African themed, that is also made by African filmmakers, then just keep an eye out next year in 2022. Alright, so now let's get on to the next story that I have over here. And the next one that we got is actually a trailer. And this one, I can't help but feel, honestly, just confused. Like, honestly, I don't get this. Mainly because of the fact that, is this something that people want? I'm going to be repeating this, honestly, when I talk about this, but is this something that people would actually want to see? Is this what people actually want? Because the thing is, if you look at our trailer, apparently, guess who's coming back on Netflix? None other than the boy himself, Johnny Test.
The name's Johnny Test. That's Susan and Mary, my smart sisters.
We're such geniuses.
And that's Dookie, my best bud.
We're coming, Johnny!
Say cheese!
Another day in Pork Belly.
To the lab! With summer coming up, we'll have more time for testing. The GPS Scape. It'll take you to the funnest places on Earth.
What do I push?
Okay, is everybody ready to play Melee Island?
Looks like I got an upgrade.
I really should savor this moment.
We have a baby?
It's really just a baby box.
I'm telling you, that baby is evil.
I'm a bad boy!
Okay, now he's evil.
Who else wants to challenge my crazy maze?
How hard is it to make it through one measly night in the woods without freaking out?
You freak out at night all the time.
Time to destroy Johnny Test.
It's team-up time!
Fine. What's the plan?
He's action-packed and sister challenge. Dookie dog for living large. Triple cloning. T-Rexing. Royal throning. Johnny Xing. You never know what's coming next. 'Cause it's Johnny Test.
No ride is too fast and scary for Johnny. I am never going on that ride again.
So yeah, that is the new Johnny Test series that is going to be coming to Netflix, and it should be about a month apparently on July 16th. And I need to ask this again. Is this what people want? Is this honestly something that people legitimately wanted to actually see? Like, is this a thing you wanted, people? Like, is this how you want Johnny Test to come back? Because honestly, I really don't know. Okay, like, let me just go and give out some context. Honestly, I have never seen a single episode of Johnny Test myself. Like, I've never actually seen the show, but from the things that I've been hearing, it's not great. It's a pretty popular show. Apparently, it's got like 5 seasons and stuff like that. But still, though, it's just not really a great show and has really often been criticized. In fact, it's actually one of those series that is considered a punching bag in the cartoon community. There have been people like Nintendo who has really dissected the crap out of something like Johnny Test. So, yeah, it's not necessarily a series that has the strongest reputation. But also, just from watching this, though, it's like, okay, I do get the appeal of the series and what it's trying to do and stuff like that, especially with the sci-fi element, I guess, if you will, with Johnny Test being the test subject of his genius sisters, doing all sorts of experiment on him and going on the crazy adventures. Like, yeah, I get the appeal of the concept, but sometimes the execution is just not great. And that's honestly the problem that I see with the execution here. Like, I know a lot of people have already criticized the animation where it's very, how could I put this, flash dependent, that you could tell that it's not necessarily the kind where they didn't spend on trying to make the animation to be like really bold or to be smooth or to be like expressive, to really take advantage of the medium. It's just something to really like, you know, go through it quickly. And not only that, but there's also a lot of jokes that, my God, it's like real, like all I could ask is just, really? You had to go there? Like, you really have to put in this kind of joke? Like, for example, like the joke where like the dog is like scared of everything at night, like this.
The time.
Like being scared of his own farts, like you have to add in that. And not to mention, there's also one thing, probably one of the most cringe, probably one of, if not the cringiest thing that's in this. Like, we got, like, in 2021, we still gotta have this in 2021 where you gotta have freaking characters twerking? Like, that's still a thing? Have we not learned our lesson from the Powerpuff Girls reboot? Have we not learned that we don't want to see cartoon characters in kids' shows twerking? Like, why is this still a thing? Like, why is this still here? Why did Netflix have to pay someone to legitimately animate this? Like, why? Like, why? Why is this still a thing? And not to mention, there's also another thing that I am familiar with Johnny Test that I know about, like, from, like, the criticisms and all the discussions about Johnny Test, is that often there are times when they would go into those weird, kinky territories. Like, there was one example that I do recall that there was at one point where somehow Johnny Test got into some weird experiment, and apparently he got turned into like this full-bodied hourglass-shaped woman, like the complete, like with the whole complete package with like big boobs, a big ass, and everything like that. And apparently that's still getting a reference where like apparently like he's got a bunch of clones where like you see Johnny Test's head on a dog, like Johnny Test's head on a man, and even on a woman where, like, not as shapely, but, like, still has a bit of curves. Like, is this another throwback to that? It's just, you know, do we need it, honestly? I don't know. It's just all of this. I can't help but feel like, really, do we need any of this? Why do we need Johnny Test to come back? Who's the one that's really demanding for the grand return of Johnny Test? Even as someone who's not a fan, who never seen a single episode, Like, is this supposed to entice me to actually go and watch Johnny Test? Is this really the tone of the original show? Is this what fans actually wanted from this? I don't know. If this is like staying true, if this is like the true spirit of Johnny Test and this is like his big comeback, well then I guess okay, but honestly, there's just nothing for me that I find honestly appealing or that it says it has potential. The execution just feels off. The animation just feels like there's just not much effort put into it. Well, like, okay, like I know like the animators like probably have worked hard on it, but I mean like the animation just looks like it has the enthusiasm of going through until you get the next paycheck, if you know what I mean. But it's just overall, I don't know. There's just something about it. I look at this and I feel like there's just everything about it. It feels weak. The comedy is weak. The animation is weak. The narratives just feel weak. Just really, everything just feels like a wasted potential. Like I get the whole idea of having a cartoon based on a test experiment, but it's just with all this, there's nothing about it for me to say I want to see this. And really, this trailer alone makes me feel like I want to distance myself from this more so than to actually check out a few episodes and to have me invested in Johnny Test. Maybe you guys can probably explain it better, but for me, no, this honestly is just, this is not a show for me, honestly. I just, like, it certainly is not for me, and already from what I've seen in terms of the response to this, I don't know if this comeback of Johnny Test could last long, but then again, like I said before, the first Johnny Test has had like 5 seasons and was really popular, so I could be wrong on that, but honestly, the only thing I could ask is just why? Why any of this, really? And with that said, maybe you can go and describe it best. Maybe you can find the better words to go and describe the whole situation. I want to ask the chat wall, what do you all think about the trailer for Johnny Test? Is this something more appealing to you? Do you think this is actually a good idea? Do you guys actually like this? And if you are a Johnny Test fan, by the way, I want to know from your perspective. Is this how the original show is? Is this the grand comeback of Johnny Test? Let me know what you all think. Alright, let's see now. All I could say is, who was asking for this? Personally, I've only seen bits of Johnny Test, but I am aware of how hated it is. With this reboot, however, this is absolute cringe. The jokes are absolute garbage, the animation is absolutely cheap, and the characters are so annoying. Considering how hated the original series is, and how this series looks not good, how much you want to bet the cartoon community is going to rant about this series like crazy, like with Teen Titans Go? Oh, absolutely. Oh, this is definitely one that I can guarantee you there are going to be a lot of cartoon there's going to be like a lot of cartoon reviewers that will definitely eat this up, that they will go crazy, and like this is the perfect kind of material that you can imagine that a bunch of cartoon reviewers will make rants about it, like Mr. Enter or Nintendo or 24 Frames of Nick or any of those guys. Yeah, you could bet in the future they'll probably make some kind of review on this and rant the living crap out of it. Like I think that will be a guarantee. Let's see now. I'm not really anticipating for this show, to be honest. I did watch a few episodes of the original in the past, but I really forgot about it and move on. The animation in the reboot looks much better than the original. Okay, that's interesting. Although the show is not for everyone, there were some fans who wanted to see more of Johnny Test. Whether the reboot will be good or bad is up to us. In the words of ValskyBum94, starting next month, you'll never escape the whip cracks and memes. Oh yeah, this will be definitely a thing that you will, like not only rants, but also there's going to be some memes that will come out of this. Let's see. When you know a show is that bad, but the producers want to scrape the deepest parts of the bowl of ideas, you know you're gonna you're gonna get a savorless content. Hardest pass for me. I would advise the ones responsible for this reboot to rethink their careers. Ugh. Well, okay, that's a little bit too extreme, I gotta say. Let's see now. I'd rather watch Chargeman Ken than this. I honestly don't know Chargeman Ken, but okay. Let's see. Oh, this is interesting. So, I'm in the minority. I remember watching this show with my youngest sister as a kid. I remember playing it with our stuffed animals that they recreated Cartoon Network show episodes. So, the original show is weirdly nostalgic for me. I'm not saying it's good, but I have some fondness from when I was 11 to 13. I don't have any interest in the reboot, so yeah, I just felt like sharing my thoughts. No, honestly, that's perfectly okay. I mean, like, if it's a nostalgic show for you, then it's definitely a nostalgic show. Don't apologize for that. So don't be ashamed of it either. I mean, like, if Johnny Test played a significant factor in your childhood, then it played a significant factor. I mean, like, if it made you happy, it made you happy. Let's see now. Who else we got? I remember growing up with Johnny Test. I don't remember if I liked it or disliked it, but with this trailer, at least I didn't hear any of the obnoxious whip cracks. It just looks kind of visually cheap, and the humor is very Teen Titans Go-esque. Just replace Go's hit-and-miss humor with only the misses. I don't think I'll be watching this anytime soon. I'd make a witty remark, but I think I've burnt myself out from the last comment. Yeah, oh boy, you just, like, really, I saw that you worked hard on that Old Spice reference, so, like, honestly, I don't blame you there. Okay, let's see. I used to get into Johnny Test when I was entering my teen years, but not so much. I don't really know if we need a Johnny Test reboot or revival because I think the show is completely underrated and forgettable, and I don't think this would have some potential. And get that image of Bling Bling Boy and the snowman twerking out of my face. Oh yes, I think, like, honestly, if anything, like, if you're gonna hear rants and if you're gonna hear reviews, one thing I could guarantee, I could guarantee you, you're gonna see a lot of this. Don't be surprised if you're also gonna see thumbnails of this as well. Like, it's gonna happen, people. Like, this already has a lot of, like, clickbait material in order to get the rages. You know what I mean. Let's see, what else do we got here? I remember watching Cartoon Network back in 2008 and 2011, and I remember liking it when I was a kid. But now the show did not age well. I get why Teletoon kept bringing back Total Drama. I don't know why Teletoon wants to bring back Johnny Test. What about shows like 16? That is a show that we want to come back, Teletoon. But anyways, I won't be watching this reboot when it hits Netflix on July 16th. I don't know if this is really Teletoon that is responsible for it, because really, from the looks of things, it really looks like it's a demand from Netflix, who just wanted to bring this back more than anything. Let's see now, what else we got here? I think I'll read one more comment before we jump into the next story. I've been questioning to myself, who asked for a reboot? And I wonder, is this for the fans, the nostalgia, the money? I think it would be a combo of all three. And as someone who remembers the original show, I must say, yeah, it seems more insane than the original. Well, I mean, I guess you got what I don't know. I mean, maybe somebody wished on a monkey's paw. That's probably my best explanation. A Johnny Test fanboy got himself a monkey's paw. He wished for it and suddenly got this. Maybe this could turn out better than what the trailer is presenting. I could totally be wrong in my perspective on it. I'll be definitely open to it, but yeah, from the looks of things, I don't think the trailer is definitely selling me on this. And if you are curious to check out this Johnny Test reboot, then all you have to do is just wait until July 16th for when the show comes out. All right, now, for our next story, this was honestly something that I tried to avoid for a while. That many people wanted me to rant about this, to talk about this, and all that kind of stuff, but I ultimately decided no. I just did not want to do it, period, and just move on from there. But then, this week, or not this week, but just a few days ago, there was a bit of news that actually came out. There was this little piece of news that I can't help but find it so fascinating, and it has already a lot of people talking about it. And honestly, this feels very fascinating here. And with that said, some people are already predicting it. Let's go and talk about Hotel Transylvania Transformania. A few days ago, Sony Pictures has officially announced that once again, they are going to be moving the release date of the fourth and final Hotel Transylvania film, Hotel Transylvania Transformania, where originally it was supposed to be coming out next month on July 23rd. However, Sony ultimately decided to go and move it to October 1st, much closer to the Halloween time that Hotel Transylvania used to be a lot more accustomed to before the third one kind of broke a bit of that tradition. And the reason why, well, there is a bit of an explanation. Just to read you a little bit from my source here on Deadline, it actually states here, some of this could have to do with the fact that the domestic marketplace isn't fully back yet. Portions of Canada remain closed, and capacity restrictions average around 66%. This despite the fact that LA and New York City are at 100% this weekend. The studio just tried to open Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway, which it kept it safe for a pure theatrical release during the pandemic, but families didn't rush out to see it, with the sequel opening to $10.1 million. Peter Rabbit 2 already has done $58 million abroad. But you might be wondering, why is it that I find it so fascinating that Hotel Transylvania would move its release date? Why now that I suddenly decide, alright, now I'll be talking about Hotel Transylvania Transformania? Well, it's not necessarily the fact that they moved release dates. It's actually more regarding the fact of its new release date on October 1st. Because it did state here that on one hand, there is a good thing about its new release date, because July 23rd was actually a pretty crammed release date, because on July 23rd, there was already a few movies that was coming out that was getting a lot of attention, such as M. Night Shyamalan's Old, as well as Snake Eyes, the G.I. Joe spin-off, and even like before and after, there were already some major movies that would easily overshadow Hotel Transylvania 4, such as beforehand, there would be Space Jam: A New Legacy, and afterwards, there would be The Jungle Cruise from Disney. But, on the other hand though, when you do look at October 1st, that is also a pretty busy time as well. Not only would Hotel Transylvania have to face directly against what is possibly one of the most anticipated movies of the year, Dune, but what's even more interesting is that now Hotel Transylvania has some competition. And not just any competition, but a movie that is nearly identical to the theming of Hotel Transylvania, The Addams Family 2. And by the way, there have been reports that apparently MGM and United Artists, they noticed that Hotel Transylvania moved its release date next to The Addams Family 2, but they honestly did not care. They ain't gonna budge on their release date. They're not gonna move or anything like that. So that is honestly the real interesting factor. It's that Hotel Transylvania Transformania has not only moved its release date, but now it's going head-to-head against its what is possibly its most direct competitor, another animated sequel with a Halloween theming to it. So yeah, it's gonna get real intense at the start of October. And one thing I just want to go and clarify, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people who will go and ask me, first of all, did I actually see the trailer to Hotel Transylvania Transformania? Honestly, no, I still have not, and I honestly do not care to do so. But I did hear about some of the things about it, about the fact that Adam Sandler and Kevin James did not return to this sequel, and that we got Brian Hall that's going to be doing the voice of Dracula, which major congrats to him. And honestly, it's amazing that he is now living the dream of actually being the voice of a main character for a billion-dollar animated franchise. So honestly, major congrats to Brian on that, and possibly, I'll say right now, is objectively the best thing about Hotel Transylvania Transformania. But also I have heard some of the backlash that came from this movie as well, especially with the whole major controversy regarding the Invisible Man, where there was like a massive sector in the Hotel Transylvania fan base where they were really simping on the Invisible Man, thinking that he is a total hunk, like debatably even more so than they would for Mavis. But then suddenly according to to the plot, now the monsters are turning human, and now the Invisible Man is visible, and now he's like this gross-looking, disgusting nerd, and some people have even accused the design of being anti-Semitic in a way. So yeah, I'm definitely aware of some of the backlash and some of the controversy related to Hotel Transylvania, Transformania. I've heard things about it, but I still have yet to see the trailer myself. But anyways, going back to its new release date. Now, one thing that I will say right now is that I do actually find it pretty interesting of the fact that they decided to go and move its release date. And honestly, it's understandable. I do get why Sony Animation or Sony Pictures would go and do that. And it's mainly because of the fact that we are still in a pandemic. Now, I do understand some people might be sick and tired of hearing me using that as an excuse for like the movie delays and stuff like that, but technically it is true. I do understand that technically we would be at the tail end of the pandemic where a lot more people are now being vaccinated, and there's still more people that are being fully vaccinated now, like getting their 2 vaccines and stuff like that. Like, we are reaching at that point. However, I will say that we are still not out of the woods yet, and there are still plenty of other countries that are not in that same kind of position as the United States, where, like, right now they got so many vaccines and they're really handing it over to everybody to the point that they got a whole lot now that they could spare to other countries in need. There are still other places where we are still waiting on our second dose. Like, for example, I know that you guys, like you Americans, you probably already have your second vaccine. But for me, I still have yet to get mine. And according to the rules of Quebec, I still gotta wait for that 8-week gap in order to get my second. I got mine somewhere at the end of May, I believe, mid to end May probably. I have to wait to get my second in the in mid-July. I gotta wait until then, and a lot of people are still waiting for theirs as well. And not only that, but there's also the factor about the children. Like, yeah, right now we are at a point where a good amount of places, they say that now everyone who is over 12 can be vaccinated. But what about the people who are technically Hotel Transylvania's like prime target audience? What about the children? There's still plenty of those that have yet to even get their first vaccine yet, or even get any form of a vaccine whatsoever. For them, it's still a dangerous place to go outside because they would be more susceptible to COVID. It's no mistake that Paramount had decided to not only release Paw Patrol the movie on the big screen, but also to release it onto digital, so that families who have kids that have yet to be vaccinated, that they could stay in the safety of their own homes. So there is also that factor as well. And for Hotel Transylvania to go and delay that, I do understand, because they want to wait until it's a lot more safer, that a lot more of their prime target audience can actually be vaccinated and can actually be more confident to go back into the movie theater. Not to mention that, like this article states here, that there are places in countries like Canada and the UK and stuff like that, where they're not fully opening their cinemas as of yet, that they still have a bit of limited capacity, that they still have to follow rules like wearing masks and stuff like that, and that can actually discourage audiences. So they're hoping that by putting Hotel Transylvania onto October, it will be a time where going to cinemas will be a lot easier and it will be a lot more accessible in order to do so. So that I do get it. That, and also, I mean, technically it is Hotel Transylvania after all. Like, I know that some people could debate that it might not be the case because, like, you look at Hotel Transylvania 3 and it still did very well at the box office of the fact that it was released in July. But for many people, Hotel Transylvania is a Halloween movie because of the fact that it has all these different monsters like vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein monsters, mummies, and all that kind of stuff. The fact that they have those as a highly prominent theme throughout the franchise, they would normally go and associate those with Halloween. And and that's part of the reason why we have seen such great success from the first and the second film, is because they put their release date in September, at the end of September, so that they could greatly benefit from having their income for October. So at least in that regard, I do understand it. But then there is that factor of the way that they put it on October 1st, where not only are they going to be in direct competition with Dune, but they're also in direct competition with the Addams Family too. Now, some people might think that because Hotel Transylvania is much bigger than the Addams Family, that Hotel Transylvania would immediately crush the competition. No, that is not the case. You gotta realize right now that when it comes to Hotel Transylvania, it is in a very weak and a very vulnerable spot right now. Because, number one, this is the fourth Hotel Transylvania movie. And I can guarantee you, no matter who it is, even for some Hotel Transylvania fans, they're already gonna get franchise fatigue, and they're gonna view this no differently than they would with Ice Age Collision Course. Number two is also the factor that even though, like, I did congratulate Brian Hall on getting that performance, for some people, that would be a problem. Like, the whole idea of the fact that they're making another Hotel Transylvania movie without one of their main stars, without Adam Sandler, that's going to be a serious issue. That is going to be a problem for some people, and they're going to view this as lesser. The fact, and ironically enough, the fact that this movie doesn't have Adam Sandler could actually be something that would be more damaging to the movie than to actually go and help it. So that's already a big problem there. And then there's also the factor of Dune. Now, I understand that when it comes to Dune, it's not aiming for the same target audience as Hotel Transylvania. I think we can all state that as a fact. But keep in mind, Dune is one of the most anticipated movies of 2021. A lot of people are really hyping up for this movie. It's based on one of the most famous books out there. It's directed by an acclaimed filmmaker with Denis Villeneuve, and already people are expecting this to be a prominent name for award season next year. So you could definitely bet that there's going to be a lot of people that will be hyping up and to go and actually see Dune. And because of that, it will immediately overshadow Hotel Transylvania. So already Transformania has been damaged. It's already coming in pretty weak. So for Addams Family 2 to come in, it won't have a hard time to go and attack it. Sure, its box office number is significantly weaker than Hotel Transylvania, but it still has that popularity that it is strong enough, or at least it is strong to go and actually develop a sequel. You know, like when it's coming in, I'm not surprised that MGM and United Artists, that they're not scared of seeing Hotel Transylvania come to them, because, well, they're just the second Addams Family film. You know, they're not like number 4, and they don't have like one of their big stars not in the movies, or at least like not one of their most important. You know, like they still got people like Oscar Isaac and Nick Kroll and some of those people as well. They're still attached to their movie. So, yeah, honestly, that's the part where I find that it's going to be very interesting to see. I don't know if Sony is going to actually keep that release date. I find it to be absolutely stupid that they would even consider to go directly to that date. Like, honestly, why can't you go, like, sometime after? Like, really, since you are not that dependent on, like, cashing in on the whole Halloween holiday, why not, like, go a little bit later in October? Why not, like, distance yourself a bit from Addams Family and just actually release it on just release it on October 15th. Like, just 2 weeks away, so that you can have your own, you can have, like, your own area, so that kids would actually pay more attention to Hotel Transylvania instead of making that difficult choice to either check out Drac or to check out the Addams Family. you could have had that decision, but no, you decided you're just going to go directly against the Addams family, which is honestly ridiculous. And because of that, I honestly feel like the original July 23rd release date seems a lot smarter than that. Because in terms of the direct competition, yeah, technically you could say there was like Space Jam: A New Legacy, but that seems to be going more towards the nostalgic crowd, more so than actually the same type of audience that Hotel Transylvania wants to aim for. And technically, its prime target audience, like, they would already have their fill of movies, like, weeks before, to the point where they would be ready to come back to the big screen again. Like, there was a few weeks before it would have been The Boss Baby Family Business, and a few weeks after it would be Paw Patrol the movie. And yet, with Hotel Transylvania, like, you would just be right smack in the middle, and it would seem perfectly fine to go and cash in on, like, having this be a major summer blockbuster. But no, you decided to go and move that away. Like, I understand some of your reasons, but there could have been a much better release date than on frickin' October 1st, where it's a guarantee that you're going to be overshadowed, and you might even be taken down by your competitors. Unless Sony Pictures hates Transformania so much to the point that they're deliberately sabotaging it, that could also be a thing. But other than that, though, I just find it to be a bit of a kind of a dumb decision. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of, it's kind of dumb, honestly. And not only that, but it still kind of like, it really does make Sony Animation look bad in the eyes of movie theaters. I mean, like, again, I've already stated this before in previous episodes, but it really does feel like at this point that movie theaters got the short end of the stick, while Netflix ended up getting some of Sony's better films like The Mitchells vs. the Machines and Vivo. So overall, though, I just feel like, so yeah, again, I get why they would do this, but it still doesn't change that this is an absolutely dumb decision. All right, so with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask you all, how do you feel about Hotel Transylvania Transformania moving to October 1st? Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is a dumb idea? And if you would have to have the choice to watch either Transformania or the Addams Family 2, which one would you go for? Since now, it looks like you gotta do that choice. Okay, let's see now. In Sony's defense, the move makes a lot of sense. It's a monster movie, so an October release is perfect. As for the film itself, the trailer isn't too promising, but I'll remain optimistic, especially considering Sony's lineup this year being spectacular like The Mitchells vs. the Machines, or surprisingly good like Peter Rabbit 2. But going into the Invisible Man controversy, personally, I'm just disturbed by Frank. The dude looks like an Easter Egg Island head. I mean, it's Hotel Transylvania. What the fridge did you expect? Alright, let's see what else we got here. Yeah, but also I just want to say, like, I do understand the reasoning. Like, yeah, moving the release date, I have no trouble, and it's perfectly understandable. But they honestly could have picked a much better release date. That's the thing. Again, maybe later in October would have been a little more ideal for Hotel Transylvania. Let's see now. Let's see. Honest question, since when do movies must have a single release date in the Western Hemisphere? If this is about the opening and capacity percentage of some countries and provinces, then I understand the change of strategy from Sony. But then again, I'm not that interested in those cheap movies. Good for many, but not for me. # love Mavis. Okay, well, the thing is that, yeah, like, some people might not get, like, what is the problem about the whole situation. It's like, well, why have that one type of movie just be released in that one release date right there? I mean, yeah, you can release several feature films, but the thing is that you have to make sure that they are all different. The biggest problem with Hotel Transylvania being released at the same time as the Addams Family, considering that they are extremely similar, they're just going to end up cannibalizing each other, where you're going to have one group of audience that are going to go in one film, and you're going to have another group of audience that are going to go in another, instead of having both of those groups go in this one movie and then they'll go back into the other. And that's the biggest problem, is the fact that they would go and cannibalize each other, and they would ruin each other. They would pretty much sabotage each other's box office performance, and ultimately leaving each other as a flop. And not to mention, as I said before, the fact that one of the most anticipated movies of 2021 is going to also be released at that time. It's also going to completely overshadow those two films. So like not just Hotel Transylvania, but even a bit of Addams Family as well, they are a bit in a disadvantage. Let's see now, what else we got? To be honest, I like watching the Hotel Transylvania movies. They're not really my favorite, but it is still a fun watch for me. I don't know if I should be guilty for it, just asking. Well, I mean, like, you do you. I mean, like, yeah, we'll probably disagree on it, but at the end of the day, is there really a point on going after each other's throats over, like, a kid's movie like Hotel Transylvania? But anyways, I'm just asking. I might check out the fourth film when it comes out, since it was the final movie of the franchise. Also, I would like to ask, do you know that there is a change.org petition to convince Sony to make the Invisible Man hot and attractive? Why am I not surprised? Of course there is, man. Like, that's what change.org has been made for nowadays. It's mainly consisted of those stupid kinds of petition. And like, yeah, they're not gonna freaking pull, like, especially with the fact that narrative wise, they have to make the Invisible Man look that way for the purpose of the jokes. There's no way they could just suddenly change the whole thing. You know, it's not like it's not like Sony Animation will suddenly pull off like a Sonic the Hedgehog kind of deal where they decided to delay it to a few months in order to give a better design to them. No, the thing is, the joke is that he is visibly ugly and he'll remain visibly ugly. So really, yeah, like, that, like, for Sony, they're just telling the Invisible Man, like, fans, that's your problem. Let's see now. Personally, I am a bit mixed on Hotel Transylvania 4 being delayed to October. On one hand, it is great that it is coming out in October, which is very fitting because of Halloween. But on the other hand, it is coming out close to the Addams Family 2, Dune, and also it is being released in the week after another Sony Pictures movie that is also anticipated for 2021, Venom: Let There Be Carnage. I wouldn't really say that, really, because, well, okay, number one, like, it's not just that it's being released close to it, it's actually released along with Addams Family 2 and Dune. And with Venom: Let There Be Carnage, there is a little bit of a gap. Technically, Venom is going to be released 2 weeks before October 1st. So there is still a bit of that distance, and it still has a bit of time for it to get a little bit of notice. Let's see, what else do we got here? Alright, I'll go with you now. I've watched the trailer for Hotel Transylvania 4, and it did kind of pique my interest, but not enough to see it because we are getting a little bit tired of having Hotel Transylvania being turned into a major franchise, kind of like the same way Blue Sky Studios did with the Ice Age franchise. I don't actually blame to why they have delayed it, because this does look like a Halloween movie along with the Addams Family 2, and it's a battle between two animated sequels. Who will win? I don't know. That's the big question. Who's going to win the fight? Oh boy. And if they turn out to be a flop, then the winner will be me, because honestly, that box office battle will most likely be better than just watching those two movies. All right, I think I'm going to go and read two more comments I'll read one more comment before we jump into the final story. I only saw the first film a while ago, but I barely remember it like you. I haven't seen the trailer from the fourth film because I have no interest or care about it. Also, it would be interesting to see it compete with Addams Family 2 in October, though it would have been better if they released it in December, where they announced it 2 years ago. Also, as for the progress for my vaccine, I haven't gotten my first dose yet because I have an appointment for surgery to remove my tonsils on July 12th. Oh boy. Well, good luck on that. Yeah, definitely. Good luck on that, to go and remove your tonsils. So, yeah, basically that seems to be the whole situation. If you guys want to see a very interesting animated battle, then all you have to do is just wait until Hotel Transylvania Transformania, along with the Addams Family 2, is going to be released in October. Okay, folks, it is now time that we shall get into the grand finale, and I just want to point out a little bit of a warning before we get into this grand finale, because among all the stories that we got into, this is going to be the most adult. We are going to go into some subject matter that may not be suitable for all audiences, if you will. We will be talking about certain subjects that maybe some people might not be comfortable, and if you're not comfortable with it, that's perfectly fine. I understand that. But still, though, it was quite a crazy story to see, and basically it did become one of the biggest subjects to talk about in the last week. So with that said, let's go ahead and talk about the controversy of Batman and Catwoman. Yes, in an interview with Variety, the co-creators and executive producers of the Harley Quinn series, Justin Halpern and Patrick Schumacher, have discussed about some ideas about what's going to be in store for Season 3 of Harley Quinn. Mainly because right now it is one of the most popular superhero shows that are out there, like almost on par with what Marvel is, or what Disney and Marvel is bringing out with stuff like WandaVision and Loki. But one thing that they did discuss, despite the fact that they did have a lot of creative freedom and were free to go completely insane with the show, considering that it is a more adult-oriented animated series, and they did have the freedom to go a little bit more violent, a little bit more sexual, and to just go a lot more crazy with the comedy in regards to this series in particular, they did reveal that there was one thing that they were not allowed to do. When they were working on Season 3, there was apparently one thing that the executives completely refused them to do. And apparently, it was a scene where Batman goes down on Catwoman. Or more specifically, the executives did not want to have Batman to do oral sex on Catwoman. To read you a little bit from my source here on TV Line, it states, "We had a moment where Batman was going down on Catwoman, and DC was like, you can't do that. You absolutely cannot do that. They're like, heroes don't do that." And that is a massive tagline that is just going around right now. That seems to be like the biggest quote from this whole controversy about the fact that heroes don't do that. And the co-creators would go on by saying that, okay, but so we said, are you saying heroes are just selfish lovers? But then the executives, they said something that, one thing that I will give them credit, at least they didn't bullcrap around. At least they were direct and honest with them. They said, no, it's that we sell consumer toys for heroes. It's hard to sell a toy if Batman is also going down on someone. And that is the big controversy, is the fact that executives do not want Batman to go down on Catwoman, because if they do so, they wouldn't be able to go and sell toys. And that's the big thing about this whole controversy. That seems to be the weird thing that is currently going on. And one thing that I just want to clarify this right now. Like, we might as well go and bring up the first subject matter right now. Would Batman go down on Catwoman? Like, if we go into the context of the entire Batman lore, regardless of what it is, the comics, the animated show, the TV shows, the movies, or whatever, would Batman actually go down on Catwoman? And honestly, I would have to say, absolutely, he would go and do so no matter what. Because I think, like, the easiest argument that you would make is the fact that you have to remember who Batman is. Batman's real identity is Bruce Wayne, the billionaire playboy. And would Bruce Wayne go down on Catwoman? Hell yeah, he absolutely would. He's got, like, I'm sure Bruce Wayne had full of experience going down on women. So why would going down on Catwoman be any different? And even when he's dressed up like Batman, he's still Bruce Wayne underneath that mask. And there will be that Bruce Wayne side of him that will come out eventually. And if it would be for a situation like that, then yeah, he definitely would do so. But then you might be thinking, well, I mean, isn't Catwoman a villain? Isn't she, like, one of Batman's natural enemies, like, alongside the Joker and Two-Face and Penguin and all those guys? Yes and no. It does depend, because there have actually been a whole lot of times where Catwoman, yeah, she has often been presented as a villain, but there are also a lot of, there have been a lot of moments, whether it be the comics or the shows or the movies, where Catwoman was more of an anti-hero. And there have actually been a whole lot of times where Catwoman was very seductive to Batman. And there have been moments where they kind of did go in like a complicated on and off relationship. There have actually been a legitimate history between the relationship between Batman and Catwoman. And it would not surprise me whatsoever if there have been legitimate interpretations where Batman did actually have sex with Catwoman, where that actually did happen. So honestly, in terms of the context of that, yeah, that would definitely be a situation where they definitely would. And then there is the factor about Harley Quinn, about this series in particular. And if you guys know the Harley Quinn series, if you have seen the show, then I think we can all agree that it is absolutely wild. And there is definitely a reason why it is considered an adult animated series, something alongside like the Adult Swim shows like Rick and Morty and stuff like that. And that is mainly because of the factor that they are not afraid to go into those themes in particular. And there are some people that even point out that technically that did already happen, where you do have characters that did go down on each other. There was even a gag where Harley Quinn was seen in bed being satisfied with Poison Ivy, and afterwards she would like she would cough out, or like she would, she had to take out of her mouth like some twigs and some leaves and stuff like that, which means that in terms of the joke, they're pretty much saying that, yes, Harley Quinn did actually go down on Poison Ivy. So, yeah, those kinds of actions are very much prominent, and, like, they do exist within the world of Harley Quinn. So it wouldn't be hard to imagine that also Batman and Bruce Wayne would also do that as well. But then there is also another thing, and I think, honestly, the big subject we need to go and talk about is what the DC executives have stated. Like, that is basically the big argument that they are going with, because even the DC executives, they would not deny that in terms of that context, Batman would definitely do that. But what about in terms of the financial aspect? What about the consumerism look? Is it true that people would not go and buy Batman toys because they don't want Batman to go down on someone, and it would affect the sales of all the different Batman toys? Would that actually be true? Honestly, for me, I feel like that would be an absolutely weak argument. It makes honestly no sense, because let's think about it. Number one, when it comes to selling toys, the grand majority of the market, the people who would go and buy it, or the most likely to go and buy Batman toys, would be kids. It would be the kind of people that would be way too young to go and watch a show like Harley Quinn. So even if they would watch it and see the kind of weird things Batman would do, they most likely maybe not understand it. And also, on top of that, the reason why I say that it is a weak argument is because technically, when you would go and sell a Batman toy, it's always related to a specific Batman. Like, when you would go and buy a Batman toy, it's not just Batman that you are buying. It's always a specific version. Like, if you would want to go and buy something like a Dark Knight toy, that would be the Christian Bale Batman. If you want to buy a Batman from the animated series, that would be the Kevin Conroy Batman. Or, like, even in the future, like, if we are thinking ahead, like, if you want to go and buy a toy from the Batman that will be directed by Matt Reeves, then you're buying the Robert Pattinson Batman. There are plenty of different interpretations of Batman that have their own style and that have their own unique personality. There will be those that would probably be more likely to go down on Catwoman, and there are those that most likely would not. Or even, for example, they seem to have no problem to go and sell toys based on the Zack Snyder Batman. And if you have seen Zack Snyder's Justice League, then you'll see that Batman, yeah, he is pretty rough, even to the point that he would actually be willing to kill some of the villains that go against him, like the Joker. And for a while, Batman has often been considered to be a vigilante that would refuse to go and kill people. But now with that new edgier side to him, the executives seem to have no problem to go and like market toys and to sell Batman toys, even with that side of Batman being prominent on something like on Zack Snyder's Justice League. So would it really be any different if Batman would actually go down on Catwoman? No, honestly, I don't think so. I don't think they would even have a hard time to go and sell those toys. And even at that, like I said before, the prime target audience for those toys would be the kind of people that would be too young to watch Harley Quinn in the first place. So even if you would have a toy that is based on that Harley Quinn Batman, you wouldn't necessarily go and target that to those kids, right? No, you would just go and immediately sell them to adults, to the kind of people that would appreciate the humor and the style of Harley Quinn and would even enjoy the scenes like seeing Batman go down on Catwoman and stuff like that. So there is also, I gotta say, one more argument that I do want to make. There is also one more thing I do have to say in regards to the whole situation. And probably one of my biggest arguments about, like, why is it Batman would totally be down or totally get down on Catwoman is because, well, take a look at Catwoman here. This is a picture of Catwoman from the Harley Quinn series. And I mean, do you honestly think Batman or Bruce Wayne or whatever, do you think he would say no to that? Do you honestly say he would look at this and go,
No, heroes don't do that. I shall not go and be consumed by my urges. I don't know why I'm not talking properly. Oh God.
That's the thing though, is that, I'm sorry, but honestly, this is hot. Like, honestly, with a woman like that and with the kind of person that Catwoman is, like, of course Batman would definitely go down on her. He would not hesitate. Like, you know how some people go ham? Yeah, no. Bruce Wayne would go Cookie Monster onto Catwoman. Like, even, like, not even letting her finish her sentence. She was like, so Batman, do you want to go
Cookie? Nom 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 nom. Nom 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 nom. Oh nom 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 nom.
He would just go wild between those legs. So, like, even doing the sounds and everything. And one thing I gotta say, like, even if I'm allergic to cats, if she would go and ask me to get down on her, I would say, I would have no problem. I would say, yes, absolutely. No question. Like, even I would go on my Cookie Monster mode and just go, pussy! Nom nom nom. Oh my God, I shall be having a feast with Catwoman. And when I'm done, I'll be a little bit thirsty. I'll just move a little bit higher and just get some milk. Oh, I'm not usually horny, but when I do and I display it on the internet, oh boy, that's when people go and immediately set their alarms. That's when they have to go and immediately call the horny police. It would be like that Earl meme. They would just be shocked and just like look back and go like, is anyone being horny again? It just like run towards me. You are under arrest, Animat! Go to horny jail! Oh man, but overall though, with this whole controversy, it's just so stupid. I mean, it's the Harley Quinn series. It's supposed to be a satire on how we view superheroes nowadays. And I mean, the idea of someone like Batman going down on Catwoman, you know, it's not far off. Even like without the whole satire side of Harley Quinn, it still would make sense. You know, it would still be logical to see Batman get down onto Harley Quinn, but to get down onto Catwoman. Not to mention that technically we have already seen an animated side of Batman where he did end up having sex. You guys probably remember back in 2016 with the Killing Joke, right? You know that one infamous scene where Batman makes out with Barbara Gordon? You know, like, just like they were fighting and then suddenly they were having sex and stuff like that. And then, like, even afterwards, like, Batman just bails out on her. And that's when Batgirl would say the infamous lines, "It was just sex, for God's sakes." So yeah, even if it is an animated Batman still had sex before. Why would it be so different if he would get down on Catwoman? So yeah, overall, this whole thing is just dumb, man. Let Batman get down on Catwoman. Let him please the kitty. Seriously, man, it's a ridiculous controversy. Oh boy, but it's one of those weird times where the internet just got horny over a controversy. Alright, but anyways, with that said and done though, I would like to know for the chat wall, what do you think of this controversy? How do you feel about Batman not getting down on Catwoman? Do you agree with the executives that heroes don't do that? Do you think Batman should go down on Catwoman? Is it out of place to see that kind of thing? Let me know what you think. Alright, what do we have here? I'm not exactly comfortable with these news since I'm kind of grossed out by sex. I would say, though, that going down doesn't really feel like a Batman thing to do. Sure, people say that Batman as Bruce Wayne is a playboy, but I would say that is more of a mask than anything. Deep down, he's quite a tragic character, but that's just my thoughts on it. Also, if I'm allowed to go off on a tangent, we got some news around an hour ago that we're getting an animated series based on Final Fantasy IX. Really? Is that going to be like a Netflix thing or something? Oh, that's interesting. Anyways, I definitely think it is pretty stupid argument. I do think Batman toys would still sell even if Batman would get down on Catwoman. Although not only would kids be the target audience to selling toys, but technically adults would have be a target audience for Batman toys if you are a collector. And yeah, that is true. That is definitely true. Like, you do have those collector people, you do have those collectors who do consume all the Batman stuff as well, and I think, like, Batman going down on Catwoman would not even stop them to continue on consuming those Batman toys. Let's see now. Really, that's a pointless defense coming from these executive people. Can't they cope with the fact that not all of their clients are viewers are not kids anymore? It's not the first time that we've had some adult content based on the Batman franchise. I won't specify which, but you can already guess who did this. Wink, 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 wank. Okay, yeah, that is true. That is definitely true. Let's see, what else do we got here? The whole controversy is so stupid. Why didn't they say that it will not sell toys? That's Bulkovich. But I gotta admit, Catwoman looks pretty hot and cute. Batman really should dig into her. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's, like, a lot of the versions of Catwoman are actually really attractive. Like, another really good one, another really hot one, I gotta say, is also the one from the animated series in the 90s. That's also a really good one. Like, not only great curves, but the seductive personality is like, ooh, like it's a real spicy one right there. I gotta say that. And yeah, I think with that said, there's not a lot of other comments, but would there be anyone? I'll see if there would be one more. Would there be? Nah. Okay. I think honestly, from that point on, we'll go and end things off. Oh, actually, nope. We do have one more. There we go. Okay, I'll read one more here. I remember watching one of the episodes of Harley Quinn, but I never really got into the series. And yes, Batman is Bruce Wayne, a billionaire playboy. But this controversy is just getting uncomfortable. I mean, I get it. Catwoman is hot in that image. I mean, take a look at her skin color. Is that not hot? Batman would go down on her, but just don't show to the rest of us because that would be too much. Well, I mean, they're not going to show everything per se. Like, it's mostly just going to be something that would insinuate it. They're not literally going to show the action to it. It's just going to be the idea that they would do that, you know, like probably just exchange a few lines before actually committing to the action. So, like that would be the most that they would go and do to it. It's not like they would literally show that. Otherwise, you would have to go and ask Zontan to, if you really need to have that visual depiction. Anyways, with that said, I think that should conclude this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And what a wild ride this episode has been. And I just would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and thank you all so much for coming. I think we could definitely have a fun time with this new schedule right over here. I think it will definitely fit well, and we could definitely get used to this. So, with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. And until next time, see you later, dudes.